Hello, this is part two of living ready spiritually. It's like an introduction to what does it mean to get prepared spiritually for living ready. We talked. I won't recap an awful lot, but we talked about there being a lot of commands in the Bible and how lots of people just perceive God as some kind of judge in the sky, saying, "Are you keeping the rules?" No, nothing like that at all. And actually, if you are trying to live a good life and obey a set of rules, then you are likely that you could actually be missing out on God, even though they're His commands. So please don't miss out on the real purpose, the real good news that Jesus came to bring, because it's actually about living life to the full. That's why He came. So He came to give us an invitation. That's the thing. Jesus came to give us an invitation. And when you look at how He related to His disciples when He was on earth, the invitation was, follow me. And so we have then a choice to make. If Jesus asks you, and let's just pretend now, Jesus is saying to you, follow me, what are you going to do? How are you going to respond? Because how you relate to Jesus is the crucial thing about living ready spiritually. This is an opportunity in following Jesus to be with Him, to watch Him and see what He does, to learn from Him, to trust Him, to actually maybe do what He does, to work with Him in partnership with Him, but to come to know Him personally. And that's the beautiful thing about Christianity, is it's a relationship with God. Now, if one, let's go for the primary command in Scripture. And I don't want to focus on commands, but I just want to show you how impossible it is. The primary command in Scripture that Jesus says is love God with all of your heart, all of your mind, all of your soul, and all of your strength. How the heck can you do that? That's a mad, mad list of things to do. All, not just a little bit, all of your heart. But guess what? It's actually impossible. It is impossible for a human being in your natural, normal state to obey that command fully. It needs God to transform us and change us in order to actually get anywhere near fulfilling that. But that's God's desire, to connect with Him in your heart, in your mind, in your soul, in with all of your strength. He wants to connect in every way with you as an individual because He values you so much. But quite often we can choose our ways over God's ways. But so we need to willingly submit to Him. We need to trust Him. We need to yield to Him. And when we do, He changes us. He comes in His power and He enables us to do impossible things, because this is the life of faith, that when we believe, we will see things happen according to His promises in line with the Bible. But the primary thing, not commandments, a relationship with God. So let's not, here's a warning. I don't know what that was, sounded like a monkey. Don't try and obey His commands in your own strength and ability, because that is when you're becoming like self-righteous and religious. And Jesus had some pretty harsh things to say against those kinds of people. So, what does God expect of us? Okay. Now, I'm pitching this to Christians and to people who aren't yet Christians, and so I'm not going to go all hyper religious, but let me just give you a breadth of how God expects us to ask, to live. How do we act? That's the word, not ask, act. So He talks about things that we should be doing, um, around. We should be loving. Okay, we should be joyful. We should be full of peace. We should be long suffering. We should be good. We should be faithful. We should be gentle. We should be full of self control. The Bible calls this the fruit of the Spirit. So when God comes to live in you by His Spirit, these are the fruits that will emerge in your life. But to do this in the natural is like impossible. How can you be good all the time? How can you be gentle all the time? How can you be self controlled all the time? I don't have the discipline or diligence to do that, and I don't have the ability either. But then there's another set of lists of expected behaviors, things like obedience, being kind, being forgiving, being humble, being caring, being generous. There's just a few things. And so you kind of go, oh my goodness, this is like a crazy list of things that God expects of us. It's impossible. And guess what? You're right. It is impossible. But we can't do it without God. But when you have God living in you, He manifests that. That's a popular word these days, isn't it? Manifest. But actually, He manifests these characteristics, His characteristics, in us. So, if this is impossible for us to do, we have to relate to Jesus in a different way. Okay, Christian or non-Christian. But there is another category of expected behaviors which doesn't get talked about very much, and this is the area that is linked directly to getting ready, being prepared, and living ready. So I want to talk about this, and this will need probably multiple sessions afterwards. But I'm not just switching from practical preparedness into spiritual preparedness, and that's it. It's about integrating the two, because you can't live a spiritual life without being practical, and you should not live a practical life without being spiritual, because otherwise you miss out on the whole purpose of life. So here's the list, okay? And this is where I'll drop some Bible passages in the chat afterwards. God says, and this is like the words of Jesus, that we need to be alert. I'm going to do just a list now. To be continually alert, be on your guard, stay alert, keep alert. That's quite an emphasis, really, isn't it? Watch, keep watch, watch out, watch carefully, keep wide awake, be ready, be prepared, prepare yourself, be sober-minded, stand firm, keep awake. Now, that is a list of scriptures, and I've got a whole boatload of them just that I can share in the chat. But they are really, really proactive verses where you go, oh my goodness, what does all that mean? And actually, for us in the channel, I think this is an important thing. We're going to spend some time looking at these in later sessions, asking questions like, well, what are we preparing for? Be alert for what? What does that mean? What are we watching for? Do I get my binoculars and go watching for something? What is it? Be on your guard. Well, be on your guard against what? Why the urgency? There is a real sense of urgency in some of these scriptures. And how is this relevant for me? And how will it help me to live ready and be ready for what? So crucial questions. But I want to link it to scripture so that the faith element comes through, so that we not only get ready practically, things like growing food and power and water and all that sort of stuff, but how do we get ready spiritually? And this will give us perspective on how God expects us to do that. And actually, when you think of all of those words, it somebody has to be really disciplined and diligent and vigilant in order to do that. And that's actually, it takes a certain kind of person to live that kind of lifestyle. If this is the lifestyle that Jesus himself says that his people should live, we better look at it. And so actually, when you look at those scriptures as well, it's not just they're scriptures for everybody. They're not just for the select few. They're addressed to everybody who follows Jesus. And there's an expectation for everybody to obey them or to fulfill them, but then they're not just kind of like suggested things to consider, because there's something happening in the future that Jesus is making us aware of that we need to prepare for. So how do you live this way? I think that this is something that the UK and the Western church in general has pretty much forgotten, because the way that Jesus set up when he first came, he created disciples, he formed disciples, he chose 12 people, and then for 3.5 years, he invested his life in them, taught them, showed them, and then got them to do it as well. And this is the life of a disciple. It's about training, equipping, diligence, commitment. It's all about discipleship. And this is what the church needs to get back to. So how do we live ready? Well, we need to change our approach to our lives. If we're not living this way already, then we need to adjust. So we need to listen and hear the truth of what he says in the Bible, which is what we'll do. We need to agree with his word. It's like his word is actually more important than our opinions. Then we need to put it into practice. If we understand what he's telling us, okay, you need to be more loving. Well, how do I put that into practice in every context of my life? But like I said, we can't do this by ourselves. How do we allow him to change our hearts and our minds and live in this way? By faith. Because he will enable us to become more like him. He will allow his character to come out of our lives when he is living in us. So for Christians, if you're a Christian, I've got one question for you, probably two. Is God really in charge of your life as king? Do you consider yourself to be living ready spiritually or not? And for those who don't know Jesus, he is alive, and he really is the way and the truth and the life. And he's my hope. He's my hope for the future in this world and in the next world. And he can be your hope as well. We don't need to be in despair or be in fear. we can have hope. And so Jesus will give us the opportunity to know what it's going to take and then to do it. But the primary thing, remember, is about relationship with him. So I'm going to pause there, and then I might do a quick summary in a little bit. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll put some stuff in the chat as well for you to refer to and discover the truth for yourself. Bless you. Thank you.